Hello, this is Lewis with a quick video demonstrating how to configure Hub for use with the original Go 1. So the first thing we need to do is we connect to the Go, to the Hub, and then we log in with the default password admin unless you've changed that. And you'll notice that the menus in the latest version of the Hub have changed. So we now have a new tab called Satellite, and under Satellite you'll see the Go exec and you'll see the Go Iridium. Now before you can set up the Go, you really need to pair the unit, the hub, to the Go, and since the Go doesn't have Ethernet, the only way to do that is via Wi-Fi. So the first thing you would do is you would navigate over to the Wi-Fi tab under Settings. And then you would scan and join the Go network. So I'm going to do that real quickly on a different hub that has the Go attached, Go within range. And so we did the scan, and you'll notice here that the Go shows up as Iridium right down here. So we join the network. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. That's actually my Iridium Go exec. So let me just try this again. No, here it is right here. So we will join this Iridium right here, join that network. You notice that there's no password required this time because the Go by default doesn't have a password on the Wi-Fi. If it does, you'll have a entry here that pops up requesting the password for the Wi-Fi. We hit submit. We then hit save. And then down at the bottom, we hit save and apply. And that will cause the unit to connect to the Wi-Fi on the hub. And when you come down here, you'll see that you've got good signal strength, you've got an IP address for the unit, and you're a client connected to that particular. Again, it specifies an SSID ID with the client. Of course, you can always test this by going to diagnostics, and you can ping 192.168.0.1, which is the IP address of the Go, and we should get a response back from the unit. And there we are. So we've got 100% success packets, and the packets returned, so we're good. So back to configuring the Go. First thing, so we'll go to the Go screen, and we'll enable it. So typically the default is to be disabled, so you'll enable it, and default entry here for the IP address is 192.168.0.1. If that's been changed on the device, you need to change that. And then you need a user, and so this is an Iridium Go user. The default is guest with a password of guest, which is what's entered here. If you've changed the user or the password on the Go, then of course you need to change that here. And when you hit save and apply, the hub will test and make sure that the parameters that you've entered here are correct, and it will not let you pass this screen if you haven't done it. So, these menu tabs up here will not be present when this is disabled. Now, one thing to note is that you can only have a Go or a Go exec. You can't be running both at the same time. If you come over here to the Iridium Go exec, you'll notice that we have a message that says the Iridium Go is currently enabled. You must disable Iridium Go before you can enable the Iridium Go exec. All right, so the only way for me to actually configure this now for use with the Go exec is to disable the Iridium Go, but we're not going to do that since this is a demonstration on how to use the Go. All right, now the menu settings you'll find here are very similar to those for the Go exec. If you've ever configured a Go exec with the hub, you'll find this to be pretty much the same. So under the status, you will find the signal strength. So we've got good bars here, and the state of the internet connection. The service is registered. Oh, so we're dialing. We've actually got tracking enabled, so at this point we're actually sending a tracking report, but I'll get to that in a minute. So we're registered. You got a serial number. You got a IMEI, which is the which is the unit that identifies the modem. You got an ICC-ID, which is your SIM card number, and then the firmware on the Go and the hardware serial number, firmware version, and hardware version. So again, those are just mainly for support folks if they need information about your specific Go. Under connection, you will find that you can bring up a connection. Oh, so we're connected right now, so we'll wait till that disconnects. We're sending a position report, but this screen changes dynamically as the unit connects and disconnects when sending position reports, doing email, and so forth. But you can manually disconnect, and you can manually bring up a session by hitting the buttons here. So I'm not going to disconnect this. We'll just let this finish, since what we're doing right now is we're doing now we're disconnecting. See, we see the status that says disconnecting. Right. So now we've disconnected, and so we'll notice here that we've executed the disconnect, and the signal strength should now reflect that here. And here we go. A second. So you'll notice here that we've got to connect. We have firewall profiles, and we'll talk about those here in a second. By default, we ship this with an all open and an all blocked. All blocked means that when you establish a connection, everything will be blocked. All open means the opposite. To establish an internet, you just push the button, and that will cause the hub to start a session where you notice the buttons are now gone because we're in the middle of activating the internet services, and so that takes about 20 seconds or so. So we're dialing. We're negotiating the link. We're authenticated, and we should be connected here in a second. And we're connected. And so you notice that we get a duration counter here. Note that the Go by default, unless there's any traffic, will disconnect the internet in about 1 minute and 30 seconds. So if you were going to run an app right now, you would want to be Wi-Fi connected to the hub, and you would want to actually execute it here before the timer expires. Otherwise, it'll automatically disconnect. Now I'm going to go ahead and just hit the disconnect button, since there's no need for us to manually bring up a connection. But when setting up the Go and just testing to make sure things are okay before you set up your tracking and your email and everything else, it's good to just push that button to make sure that indeed you're communicating with the hub. You're communicating with the Go, and that the links are coming up and down since you need them. The firewall profiles work exactly the same way as they do on the Go exec. You can create a profile. You give it a name. You give it a display name. The display name shows up in the pull-down menu under here in the connection. So this all blocked and the all open, you'll notice, are basically firewall profile display names. So there they are. You can enable DNS blocking, which disables DNS, or leave it open. And these can be deny all except for the rules that are exceptions, or accept all except for the rules which are exceptions, and then you can give a description of what these are. The description isn't actually used for anything, it's just an FYI for yourself. Under the rules, we'll go ahead and, for example, on the block one, I'll just edit it so that you can see. You can specify the profile that you want to use. So this is using all block. An IP address. Now this is a little different than the Go exec. On the Go exec, you can actually use domain names and host names. On the Go, you can only use IP addresses. It won't resolve hosts if you have DNS block enabled. And then you've got a port, start a port end, and then what protocols you want to support. And so, and this is the IP address of the mail server. It's not used for anything really. That they're internally that's all taken care of you. But I thought we have these here just as an example of how you set this up. Finally, as with the co-exec, we've got a syslog here which shows you the status of the connections. And so, for example, here's the very one that we just did manually, where we establish a connection. Signal strength is 5. The firewall exceptions using the syntax that the Go expects. Then the dialing, the negotiating, the authenticated, the connected, and then finally, after 30 seconds or so, the disconnect when we push the button. So yeah, and above that you'll see one that is the mail session, again doing the Go connections, and there should be one here for the tracking as well. But anyway, so that's that. Again, no need to really look at this log unless you run into issues, or if technical support asks you to look at the log and then maybe copy and paste it and send it back. So that's the setup for the Go. Pretty straightforward and simple. Under services, let's just start with tracking, since that's probably going to be the most popular feature. I will add that the GPS in the Go has been historically problematic because it's an embedded antenna and it's usually down below and it doesn't work very well. And so position tracks that have been recorded with the Go are usually all over the map. If you use tracking with the hub, that solves the problem because it has a much better GPS built into it, or better yet, it can use the NMEA 2000 network on your vessel, and so it has accurate GPS. So when we come down here, the providers PredictWind, as usual, there's only one. But under transport, when the Go is enabled, you're going to see that you've got least cost routing. Least cost routing means that the hub is going to try the internet to send the position reports, and if there is no internet, then it's going to cause a dial, a connect, and a send and a receive over the Go, send the tracking position reports, and then disconnect. Now, so I will mention that when you have tracking enabled, you can have polars sent with those tracking reports. So this works just like it does with the Go exec. If you have automatic mode enabled for the polars, polar data will be collected and sent with the tracking reports. The polar data is not that big, and it's about 100 bytes for every. It's about 100 bytes for. Anyway, 100 bytes per minute of collected data. So if you've got tracking interval set to 15, you're looking at about 15 kilobytes or so of data, which will take about a minute to transmit over Iridium. So you might want to enable those, since most of you will have all-you-can-eat plans on the Go, and so this is all happening automatically, so you might as well send your polars with you while you're doing your ocean crossing. Also, you will note that mail, AIS, under NMEA, and mail will also be sent if you desire that, just like it is with the Go exec. Under PredictMail, under connection, again, you will see that there's a policy, there's a transport, just like there is for tracking, and by default it's set to internet, and so the mail will only work on the internet unless you specify a transport of least cost routing. Same situation if you've got an internet connection because you've got a Starlink, or your Wi-Fi connected to a local marina, or some other using LTE through some kind of router on your vessel, then the email will go over that. But if you're offshore and there's no internet connectivity, then it'll cause the Go to dial and send email. Yeah, that's pretty much all there's to it. All right, well, anyway, thanks for listening, and if you've got any questions, just shoot an email to support. Thanks, and until next time, this is Louis.